Many Americans are going to be taking to the roads this year instead of flying, obviously, because of the coronavirus pandemic. So here to talk a little bit more about those travel trends that we're seeing, we have Danny Hest. He's the TOGO Group CEO, the company behind the popular Roadtrippers app. And Danny, great to have you on the show. The travel trends, we've been talking about it here at Yahoo Finance, clearly have changed for many Americans, and then, of course, on a global scale. Just what are you seeing just in terms of an uptick in demand? And, of course, where are the travelers that are using your app heading this summer?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Shauna. It's great to be here. We certainly have seen a bit of a roller coaster over the past several months. When the pandemic first hit, obviously a lot of people had travel plans that got canceled. And then a lot of people were shut in for several weeks. We started to see a lot of pent-up demand. And our app allows people to plan trips, to build a trip and share it socially, to discover a lot of local places. And what we were starting to see around the April timeframe was a huge resurgence in interest in planning trips. And that was brought on by a bunch of different factors. Obviously, it's very hard to fly, and gas prices were low. But then the recreational vehicle, the RV sector, really started to also create a lot of other interest in terms of traveling safely throughout a pandemic. And there's really no playbook in how to travel during a pandemic. So obviously, we were not, at the onset of COVID, we were not encouraging people to get out there and travel. Everyone was trying to figure out what was the most responsible thing to do. We started to encourage people to plan. And as the summer months started to come on board, we saw continued interest in trip planning, a huge increase in demand for recreational vehicles. And now we're seeing lots of people actually taking those trips. So obviously a pretty big swing.
Danny, what about those who've made this a more permanent change? We've heard a lot about people who are increasingly living out of vans, decided to give up their place. They're building out their vans in ways we haven't seen before. What kind of shift have you seen on that front, and what does that mean to your platform?
Yeah, so we've seen people take advantage of the fact that within recreational vehicles and vans, you can control your environment a lot more. You don't have to stop at rest areas or eat at restaurants. You can prepare your own food. You can socially distance and be responsible outdoors. And couple that with the increase in connectivity that we're seeing, and the fact that a lot of companies are now just making remote working a way of life. And we're seeing just the flexibility that lifestyle offers. Plus, I would just say a lot of the other conditions that we're seeing really starting to create this massive impact.
Danny, Ness here. What about some of the trends that you're seeing as far as these road trips? What are some of the offbeat places that people are going to? What are some of the distances that they're traveling?
Yeah, great question. So we've planned about 1.2 million trips this year. And on our platform, what we see is really interesting. So, and this actually echoes what we've seen in my household as well, anecdotally. So we have a lot of people that use the trip planner to plan this epic bucket list road trip. And those are destinations out west typically. So Yellowstone, Arches, Zion National Parks, these massive trips. Then we also see a lot of more responsible trips. And that's actually something that we like to promote as well, which is to try to explore more locally, especially during a pandemic. You want to be close by to home. You want to be able to, again, control your environment as much as possible. And so I had a big trip planned out to Yellowstone. My wife put the kibosh on that. We wound up going to Michigan, which was a much shorter trip. So we're seeing a lot of those types of dynamics happening where people want to go out west. They wind up trying a much shorter road trip just to get the sense of what it's like to travel during these conditions.
All right, Danny Hest, TOGO Group CEO. As always, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
All right, thank you.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.